Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
This week we got, obviously, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, but we've also got a little bit that happened on SmackDown beforehand, and quite a lot that happened on Raw afterwards. So we're going to talk about everything in sort of divisions, and we're going to kick off with the tag team division. The first match was the SmackDown tag team match on the pre-show, the Usos taking on the Mysterios.
It's finally happening. We've got gold in all the bloodline.
Finally, it was
at
something
least
we
all
were
the
expecting.
current members of the bloodline.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there was no world in which the Mysterios were retaining their titles. Not one. There's not an Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth 99. This was not happening in any realm of the realm. So it was just surprising it took them as long after Jimmy finally returned to put the titles on the Usos. Some of that is self-inflicted, with especially thanks to Jimmy.
Yeah.
But they're still going full bore with the storyline, and now the Usos have their gold, and Roman's empire is just getting stronger and bigger with every single week that passes.
Well, really, assuming they're not also going to pick up the mid-card title onto anyone, they've kind of hit their gold threshold now, haven't they?
No, there's another option. I mean, somebody was just traded to SmackDown for, I guess, a box of cards or something. I don't know. I don't know what the trade going the other way was. But Naomi, one of the Usos' wife, was just sent to SmackDown.
That's what we call a baiting segue. And I guess opens up possibilities for Naomi versus Bianca, and maybe inclusion into that whole bloodline storyline.
Yeah, I could see maybe if for a few weeks she's trying to talk to her husband out of acknowledging the tribal chief, or trying to talk sense into him. But eventually, Roman talks sense into her. She turns to the dark side for the first time in forever. I don't remember the last time Naomi was heel, honestly. If she's ever been heel. They could give her a new edge to her character. Because as great as her Glow character was, it's kind of like, alright, we need to see something new from Naomi. That's what we saw with Bayley when she turned heel. We had seen everything from Bayley up to that point, and it was like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And then Bayley became the hottest thing in the company simply because she was different now. That's what we need from Naomi. And including her in the Bloodline storyline would be perfect, because it would then allow her to become something new. And then it gets her second title reign. Technically third, but I don't consider the fact that she had to give the title up in the first place like a real title reign. But yeah, and this time, this title reign would be more important because it's also included with the Universal title, with her husband and their tag team titles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see if that's how they committed. I don't think it's a coincidence that, as you say, Naomi got traded over to SmackDown. We just got to wait and see when they decide to pull the trigger on that one, and how quickly they decide to go with it. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the women's division. Let's just wrap up this tag team division here, because the Raw tag team titles were also on the line on Money in the Bank. AJ Styles and Omos successfully defending them against the Viking Raiders.
Yeah, we had a little bit of stardom for everybody involved, but Omos is looking good. He's looking much better than you would expect him to, with the experience level he has. And that's part of that's, I think, just working with AJ. The question is how much can he learn from AJ? Because I don't know how much longer this tag team's going to last.
Okay.
But they're definitely giving him the rub because he got he got the win for the tag team against the very game Viking Raiders.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we expected. So yeah, I think the next opponent will be at SummerSlam for this tag team champion, and I think it'll be RK Bro. I think that's their next logical opponent.
Yeah, we keep sort of talking about that, right? As RK Bro being sort of the next big thing in that tag team division as soon as they can commit to it, with Orton and stuff. So I guess it's just a case of is SummerSlam the time that they're going to pull that trigger? And if they do, I think we talked about it last week when we were talking about the power of AJ Styles and Omos, one of the best wrestlers, and then the absolute unstoppable giant. But when you go opposite them and you put someone who's as good at wrestling as Riddle on one side and also the star power of Randy Orton, you sort of even the playing field a little bit, and they're the guys who have got the best chance to take the belts off of Styles and Omos.
Yeah, they're definitely got the best shot. Riddle, with his MMA background, could neutralize the just sheer size of Omos. He's proven he can do that in the past. So, and then you have arguably the best in the company versus the other guy that's in the conversation for arguably the best in the company in Orton. So they kind of neutralize each other. So it would definitely be a what do we want to get out of this match type of thing if it does take place. I do think if RKO Bro versus Omos and Styles happens, RK Bro is winning the titles. I think that's almost a certainty.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a guarantee because nothing is guaranteed in wrestling, short of a few things like death, taxes, and Vince McMahon coming out to a pop. That's about it. All you'll ever expect is a guarantee.
Yep, it's entirely fair. And let's switch over to the women's division. You mentioned Vince McMahon coming out to a pop. He did that at the start of SmackDown, sort of announced, we are back into this fans sort of era. But we did get our SmackDown Women's Tag Team Championship match on SmackDown, not the pay-per-view. Bianca Belair successfully defending her belt.
Yeah, except it's not a tag team title. It's not a SmackDown tag team title.
Look, it's 6 a.m. If I said the wrong word, let's go with it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was Carmella was ever going to win the title here, but it does look like we're probably going to get another rematch next week on this week's SmackDown. And I expect this a very similar outcome to the previous match. So I think Belair retains. I have no idea what her next move is. The next person for it. It may end up being Naomi that we were just talking about.
Yeah. It makes a little bit of sense, that that SmackDown Women's Division is just getting bolstered up now. It could be the debuting Toni Storm. It could be a number of people. But who knows?
It would also be very interesting on a full circle kind of situation if Naomi does end up facing Bianca soon. Because they saved each other in the Royal Rumble, which allowed Bianca to win the Royal Rumble, which then allowed her to win the women's title.
Yeah. So
it would definitely be just a full circle moment for them. I think if Naomi has aligned with the Bloodline, she takes the title. Mm-hmm. If not, it's going to be one of those situations where it'll be one of those tipping points that leads Naomi to the Bloodline.
Yeah.
And submitting to Roman in exchange for her hardline character and then eventually the title. So it'll be a question of how they want to play that out, but I think Naomi and Belair are at least at some degree on a collision course. We just don't know when and how.
Yeah. Could be a little bit down the line. It could be next week. We just don't know yet. But something we do know is the winner of the Women's Championship match contract Money in the
I don't
Bank.
want to talk about that yet.
What do you want?
I want to talk about, if we're going to talk about that match, we got to talk about the Raw Women's title first, because because the contract runs into that.
That's true.
Situation.
I was running the other way. I was going to run from the Raw Women's Championship match into the rematch on Raw, into the thing you want to talk about, but we'll go your way. Charlotte Flair is our new Raw Women's Champion.
Yeah, it was a great match. It was the third longest match of the night. Flair and Ripley are definitely right along with, I think they got good chemistry. I think Ripley had the best was brought out of her with this feud with Flair. Flair is Charlotte Flair. There's not much you can say about her. She is the best in the women's division, bar none. I can see why. I totally see why they put the title on Flair, because Flair is dependable, and also somebody you can have somebody beat with a briefcase and lose absolutely nothing on either person. So that was obvious. I think I will say this. I wonder how much the plans changed with Bayley's injury. Because I kind of think had Bayley not gotten hurt, they would have had that I Quit match on the pay-per-view. I almost think whoever actually won the briefcase would have cashed in on Bianca, and thus would have been a heel. Because Bianca would have retained, but would have been extremely weakened as a result of that match. So I think our winner changed in the last week.
Can I talk about that winner now?
Let's talk about the rematch first, because then we can get to the big moment.
Then they had a rematch on Raw.
And Ripley got disqualified. Then beat the living tar out of Charlotte Flair. Which
personally I think is a totally fair action.
Yeah. And then the winner's briefcase, the briefcase winner's music played, and Ripley did the nicest thing ever. Just threw Charlotte Flair in the ring for her. I absolutely, when I saw that in the video recapping, I absolutely started dying laughing. I'm like, that's awesome. You can also see the smirk on Ripley's face too, because you know what's about to happen.
And then Liv Morgan cashed in her Money in the Bank briefcase and won the title. Yay!
Yeah, in your dream universe.
Sorry, I gotta wake up properly.
I'm not sure. Except we had a very nice winner though for us. Okay, we can talk about the winner now.
You've delayed me long enough. You held me off. I wasn't allowed to talk about it, but now we can talk about Nikki ACH winning. I say ASH.
Yeah, yeah. Nikki won. Out of all the people that could have won, it was like they threw us a bone without us realizing that we wanted it. Nikki is now now Miss Money in the Bank, which was her first a singles accolade, and then the next night she turned it into the title by cashing on Charlotte Flair, which had she done on Bianca would have turned her heel because they're both face. So that's the exact reason why, or Rhea Ripley for that matter, it would have turned her heel. So that's 1,000% why they put it on Flair, was so that they could preserve both roles of the people that were involved in the cash-in. Plus, Charlotte Flair's now been cashed in on 3 times out of 5 briefcases. And one was not even cashed in. It was just turned into a title immediately.
Yeah, because as we all know, the women's briefcase can't be held for any longer than a couple of days before your first cash in, even if that's reverse, and then you end up holding it for a couple hundred afterwards. The briefcase, we've got to get it used real quick. Get it done. And Nikki stuck to the theme, cashed in the next day, and for now is our Raw Women's Champion.
Yeah. Let's talk about the match a little bit. They definitely went all out with the whole Alexa Bliss powers thing. Because at the beginning of the match, you just had her creepily standing on the rope in the corner of the ring. Just standing there. And I'm like, that's creepy.
It was very creepy.
Yeah. And then while everybody's fighting for the ladders outside the ring, she's trying to bring the briefcase down with her powers. Gets stopped by Selena Vega, which was also a theme because she then later on in the match put Selena Vega into a trance and tried to win the briefcase that way.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that first use of powers there. Look, as silly as it would have been, as stupid as it would have been, I'd have popped if the briefcase just, like, jumped off the chain snapped or something, and the briefcase just dropped in her hands in the first few minutes of the match. Look.
You would have been different, that's for sure.
It would have got me.
Yeah. And then they treated her like she was Big Show or Braun Strowman and buried her under ladders. Which was like, it was funny to see. It was this little tiny person. Let's be honest. Alexa Bliss is tiny.
Yeah.
And then she's just absolutely buried under ladders, but you can still see her out the side. They did an awful job with the camera view. For that on that side, but yeah, it's like, and I'm like, she's doing stuff with powers, and you're still burying her with ladders. That kid really won't make a difference if she really wants to do anything. But yeah, they eliminate her out, and then they set up the 3 ladders in the middle of the ring. You know how this is going to end. 6 people go up. 1 ladder falls to the left, 1 ladder falls to the right. The 2 on the middle then brawl for a bit at the top of the ladder, and they both fall off. That didn't happen this time.
Nope.
No. It said somebody actually had a brilliant moment, and like, these guys are all fighting. I'm going to sneak up one of the ladders and grab the briefcase while everybody's paying attention. And it actually worked.
Yeah. Unhooked the briefcase and ran off.
Yeah. And the others are just like, why didn't I think of that? But yeah, Nikki just came out of nowhere, just snatched the briefcase, and now is champion as a result.
Yeah. And as a result of her winning and her championship run, she is also our entrance theme of the week. So that is going to be planned for you right about now. And you're back to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. We still got quite a bit to get through, so we're going to be hitting the fast forward button just a little bit. Let's talk about the WWE Championship. Bobby Lashley, he defeated Kofi Kingston.
Took longer than 7 seconds, though.
Took 7 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was basically a bloodbath without the blood. They led Kofi Kingston to slaughter and massacre him.
And it leaves you wondering, right? Because, now Bobby's taken down Drew a bunch of times. He's taken down Kofi. Who's next? Look, I hate myself for that segue.
Yeah. Yep. Goldberg has declared himself next, which the last time we saw him, he got annihilated by Drew. So by all logic, Bobby Lashley should retain the title at SummerSlam.
You've just jinxed it.
Yeah, but I was fixing to say, but this is WWE and logic doesn't always apply. I mean, we have a woman that's practicing voodoo at the moment. That doesn't exactly make logical sense. But yeah, so anything could happen. I don't believe though that Goldberg will become WWE champion though. I do think that it could create a situation where maybe our almighty WWE champion is weakened to the point where the Money in the Bank men's Money in the Bank briefcase is able to winner is able to cash in on him. Yeah,
this match, the Bobby Lashley Goldberg match, definitely to me is just screaming Money in the Bank cash in, regardless of outcome. But we'll I guess we can talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the Money in the Bank winner and sort of their future opportunities, which we can do now because then we can leave the biggest part until the end. the winner of the Money in the Bank ladder match was, as you predicted 6 months ago, Big E.
Sometimes I just nail these long-term predictions. Yeah, Big E was like, he was just, you knew they were going to do something with him. You knew he was on his way. And we said at the Royal Rumble, when people were wanting him to win it, that it was just a little bit too soon. He'd just become single. He just won the Intercontinental title. It didn't make a lot of sense then. But there was an event in the middle of the year that could propel him towards the main event that you want him to be in. And that was Money in the Bank. So hold off 6 months from the Royal Rumble. You give him the Mr. Money in the Bank, and you slowly bring him up to the level of either Roman or whoever the WWE champion is. And then you can have that moment of him becoming champion.
Now it's time to start that build.
Yeah. Let's also talk about the fact that Drew McIntyre got drove away by Jinder Mahal and his two cronies.
Yeah. We're presumably continuing down that path of Drew versus Jinder. There were a couple of little things here and there that sort of got built. Seth Rollins playing into the main event got built here as well. This match wasn't just about the Money in the Bank briefcase winner. There was a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, building everything nicely together. And I am a little conscious of the time we have left, but I do want to talk about Big E's possible cash-in opportunities as well, especially since you mentioned that Bobby Lashley piece. I think it would be quite a good sort of revenge or avenging storyline if he did in fact cash in on Bobby after he just defeated Kofi Kingston in the way that he did as well.
Yeah, because Kofi really didn't have any offense in the match. He just got absolutely run over by a tractor trailer. So yeah, it would definitely be a moment. It would reunite the New Day, which would be what you would want.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And yeah, and it would put the title on Big E, and we would run with that. So I'm fine with that. I actually think that's probably more likely than Big E cashing in on Roman Reigns.
I think he's got a better shot.
Yeah, I think he has a better shot of getting the title if he does cash in on Bobby Lashley than Roman Reigns, because there are definitely things that could be afoot that could prevent him from winning the match or winning the title.
Yeah, let's talk about those because we've got about 4 minutes left. Let's just quickly get the Money in the Bank ladder match, Money in the Bank pay-per-view match out of the way. Roman Reigns successfully defeating Edge. A little bit of help of Mr. Rollins,
and also the Bloodline.
A lot of help.
Yeah. This match was almost twice as long as any other match on the entire card. Roman continues to just chef's kiss. He's perfect. He's been perfect in this heel role. He defeated Edge, so he has another piece for his Infinity Gauntlet that he's a glove that he's wearing if he wants to put gemstones on it. Yeah, I mean, this was a great match. Roman and Edge definitely deserve every bit of praise that they get. And Edge just helps put over Roman into that stratosphere of guys that are just above the business. Let's face it, Roman has no contemporary in the company. He is fighting at this point with ghosts of the past. With, I hate to say his name because of circumstances, but Hogan, Hart, Michaels, Austin, Rock, which we will eventually see a match between Roman and Rock. That's inevitable. Like all things, it's inevitable. And then, the thing I think you really want to talk about, Cena.
We're going to have to condense it. So, look, Edge Rollins, awesome. We're going to put it on the bench. Because we can't not talk about John Cena, right? It would be impossible for us to get through the show. We've got 2 minutes to talk about him, right? He comes out at the end of the show. You don't need to say anything. They just have their nice little stare down, and you get their SummerSlam match that we'd expected.
Yeah, it was almost like the 221-11 stuff. you remember the Taker Triple H returns?
Mm.
It was almost like that. It's like you see them staring at each other, and you know these two are going to go to war. And I think this feud is going to have such a different feel to it than the one 3 or 4 years ago. Because Roman is just that much bigger of a star now. And he actually has his own presence. He has his character nailed down flat. And I think he can actually hold his own on the mic without Paul's help against Cena.
It'll be a very interesting one to see how it develops over the coming weeks as we lead into SummerSlam, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a whole lot. We're going to be talking about Rollins Edge a lot. We're going to be talking about Reigns Cena a lot. We're going to be talking about Lashley Goldberg a lot. We're going to be talking about that possibility of a Big E cash-in a lot. But unfortunately, we've run out of time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Baby.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingRNDup, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingRNDup, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/WrestlingRNDup. And we'll see you next week.